Well, tonight I want to talk about a male lion, and he's the king of beasts. You think that he dominates all, but let's talk a little bit about what it takes for him to survive to the point where he is a dominant male. So, first of all, he's born in a very uncertain place. He's predated on by hyenas. He's very, very vulnerable. They're these tiny little fluffy creatures that really can't defend themselves. Their mother has to go away and hunt, leaving them tucked under a bush for baboons to find, for other lions to find, for leopards to find. So really they're very, very vulnerable at a young age. Then they've got the competition of the pride itself. They've got to belong to a really good, healthy mother who is a good mother, so that they get enough food. And very often they fall by the wayside at that point as well. So for them to even just to get through their first year is very, very tough for these little guys. And, often the competition within the pride, the other cubs of the pride, the other lionesses, they've got to be pretty lucky to get to the end of their first year. Once they get to the end of their first year, then they've got a little bit of breathing space because they're big enough that they're not going to get predated on. They're able to assist with hunting at that point. And so to a greater or lesser degree, they start to participate in their own survivability, if you will. So now they've got a little bit of breathing space, but as soon as they start to really grow their mane, as soon as testosterone starts to flow through their system, now suddenly the pride is going to start looking at them a little bit differently. And as soon as one of the females in the pride comes into season, any visiting males are going to see this young male as a threat and kick them out of the pride because they see the mane, they smell a different smell, and that guy's going to get kicked out of the pride. Now all of a sudden, he's in a scenario, he's a young male, he's probably never hunted for himself, but him or possibly a coalition of brothers are suddenly out there on their own, and they've got to survive. So they've got to learn how to hunt, and very often they kind of make a meager living with rabbits and small stuff. It's not the big, majestic king of beasts that can kill a buffalo as soon as he gets kicked out of his pride. He's this young male who's, 2.5, 3 years old. He's just been kicked out of the pride. He's never had to fend for himself, but now he does have to. He's trying to find a territory for himself, but every single territory in a well-populated area is already going to have an existing pride in there. So the next couple of years of his life are really a hard time because he's trying to hunt for himself. He's trying to stay away from all the other big dominant males that are monitoring all of their territories. He's trying to stay away from hyenas and trying to make a living. So he has a really, really hard time. As soon as he gets old enough to now start challenging some of those big males, he's also got a torrid time because he's got to start trying to assess and understand where he can attack and how he can try and overthrow one of the existing pride males. If he doesn't do that, or he may even die trying, he's just going to end up bouncing around as this vagrant male and never have a pride and never be able to make a really good living. So that's also an incredibly tough part of his life. From the time he's like 5, 6, 7 years old, it's a very tough part of his life. Then if he's lucky enough to fight his way into a pride and kill or drive off his opponent, he's now got to protect that pride. So he's now the guy in charge of the pride where all of the young guys are fighting against him. So he's got this amazingly hard job of keeping all of his females covered as well as trying to keep all of the other males off. Sooner or later, he's going to get old enough that somebody's going to overthrow him. He's now back out on his own. He's been overthrown from his pride, and very often by that stage, he's 8, 9, 10 years old, and he really starts to lose condition. He's a little bit older. He may be very, very wily. He's got a whole lifetime of hunting behind him, but nevertheless, he's got to make a living all on his own again. He's also bouncing around with territories. He's got the younger males fighting against him, and at that point, life is really, really hard for an old male lion that's been kicked out of his pride. So they don't often last very long. It's often they make a meager living, and they don't die the death of a king. Let me put it that way. Unless they die fighting for territory, they slowly waste away. Their teeth wear out. They just get old, and it's not very pleasant. So really, when you look at a big, mature, majestic male lion, he's scratched and clawed and fought his way to the top, and he's going to have to scratch and claw and fight his way to the end of his life as well. So it's not the life of the movies that guy's living. But let me tell you, in my opinion, that's one of the things that makes this animal one of the most appealing animals on the planet. Because when you see a big dominant male lion, you know that he's a badass.